Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Claudia with the American Mountain Guides Association. Thanks for joining us today. The goal of this webinar is to explore how you can grow your guide business in a way that is both sustainable and profitable. We know that running a guide service takes a lot more than technical skill, and building something that lasts takes intention, strategy, and a solid understanding of the business side of guiding. We're thankful for our partnership with Origin and their support in bringing this conversation to our community. With that, I will pass it off to our presenters so they can dive into how to grow your guide business with clarity and confidence.
Welcome to the first annual AMGA Origin webinar. My name is Benjamin Lazarov. I'm the CEO of Origin. And this is Grant White. He is the COO of Origin. And we're excited to be here today. We've got a great topic. We're going to be talking about how to grow your guide business profitably. And hopefully by the end of this meeting and webinar, you'll have a great framework around how you can look at your business a bit deeper, your trip economics, and some great things related to operating your business a bit more efficiently. So the agenda for today is three topics. We're going to dive deep into trip economics. We're going to talk a bit about pricing strategy, and we're going to go through how a lot of outfitters leverage an operating system to save time and make more money. But when Grant and I were thinking about this webinar and what topics we should cover, we were thinking about a trip that we took a few weeks ago to Colorado. And we had a bunch of meetings with a lot of mountain guides and a lot of mountain outfitters. And we were talking about kind of their growth strategy as they looked into 2026. And what we realized is most outfitters, when they're thinking about their goals for the year, they think about it from a trip level. Yeah, I did 150 trips last year. I want to do 200 trips this year. Or I did $200,000 in revenue last year. I want to do $250,000 in revenue this year. And when we started talking to these businesses about their growth levers, we realized that they really didn't have a good handle on the trip level economics, or they have not looked at their pricing in a really long time. And so we wanted to kind of share some of the things that we learned from those meetings in an effort to give you some tools to improve how you're operating your business. So generally, when Grant and I meet with outfitters, we've found that there's a few questions that they're not constantly thinking about. And I wanted to ask all of you if you have the answers to these questions. Those questions are generally pretty simple, but they may be a lot harder to get the answers to your specific business than you think, given the variables that go into running a business in the outdoors. So first, how much profit are you making? Yeah, I mentioned some companies say I did $200,000 last year. I want to do $250,000 this year. But of that $200,000, how much profit did you make? And if you do $250,000 this year, how much profit will you make? Are your prices covering your costs? And what are your costs? So if you haven't changed your price in a really long time, but over the last couple of years with inflation, price has gone up, are you priced correctly? Number three, which trip is your most profitable trip? If you do an ARI level 1 course, it has a high ratio versus an intro to rock course. Do you know what the difference of margin is? And then lastly, where's your business coming from? A lot of guides, a lot of outfitters have different channels. They've got a lot of repeat and referral business. Some people are tapping into paid ads. Some people have referral partners at Hotel Concierge. Where some people are doing great on SEO. Where's your business coming from? And are all of those channels managed properly? One when you ask, let's say, a group of 10 guides or outfitters, how is your business doing? They tend to anchor on these two things. I'm busy, calendars are full, my customers are happy. But what they aren't focused on is number 3, which is they're making money or their profit is healthy. And I think it's important as you guys think about where you're going to end this year that you're including the third. So it is our goal this year to help you have a better understanding of your profit as you look at your business. Because just because you have a busy calendar and just because you have a whole lot of demand doesn't necessarily mean you're running as lean or as profitably as you can be. So if volume alone is not the correct scoreboard to look at, what should you be looking at? And obviously everything over here on the left-hand side is trip volume and revenue related. It feels good to have the phone ring. It feels good to get a notification that you got a new booking. It feels good for your customer to have an exceptional experience. We want all of those things to be true, but we also want things with margin to be true as well. So in order for the scorecard or the scoreboard to be green, we need to understand our costs. So we're going to walk through that here in a bit. We need to understand not only our costs from like a fixed cost perspective, and we'll go through what that means. We also need to understand our costs from an operational perspective. Every time the phone rings, are we spending minutes or hours figuring out if we have guides that are available, or needing to take credit cards down, or needing to look through multiple Excel spreadsheets? These are all things that drive costs and that impact margin. I'm going to kick it over to Grant to talk trip economics, but hopefully that gives you a good foundation of what we're going to be diving into today.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. So Ben introduced on the last slide this concept of the contribution margin, right? But I want to spend a little bit of time on this slide making sure we understand, right, what is it and why is it important? And so essentially the contribution margin is the profit that you generate every time you run a trip. And the reason it's important to understand the contribution margin is because when you understand how much profit you're making by every trip or every trip type, you can then confidently start making decisions for your business on things like your marketing, right? Which trips do you want to push because they make you the most money? Your pricing. Do you need to consider changing the prices of some of your trips, and your general growth strategy? So this number, this contribution margin, becomes a foundation for almost every decision that you'll make for your business. So how do you calculate it, right? The actual calculation is simple. It's the revenue that you earn from that specific trip minus the costs that are associated with delivering that trip. And that last piece is a really important piece for you to understand and define. And so within these variable trip costs, right, you'll likely have a few clear cost categories. We've outlined some of them on the slide, but it's things like, right, how much you pay your guides, your guide wages, your gear and supplies that they're supplying, your insurance, right, your permits. But there also may be more hidden costs associated with that trip, things like your admin time, as Ben mentioned, or even client acquisition that needs to be factored in as well. And so I want to walk through a real example on the next slide, and we'll try to bring this to life a bit more. Cool. So on this slide, we have a real example on the right-hand side. It's an SPI full-day trip, and we've outlined our revenue inputs, our cost inputs, and then with that, we calculate our contribution margin. So for this example trip, right, we have 6 clients. Each client has paid $350 per seat. That gives us $2,100 in revenue, right? This is the starting point for our contribution margin calculation. This is our revenue. Now we need to outline our costs. And so for this example, right, let's assume we have 2 guides on this trip. They take home $750 between the 2 of them. We have a permit cost, $75. That's about 3 or 4% of the trip revenue. We have gear, we have insurance. And when you think about the costs of running your trips, I imagine, right, like everything in this direct cost category is probably what comes to mind, right? But what we also need to consider here are these potentially more hidden costs associated with running this trip. And so one of those that we've already mentioned is the admin time, right? Between the coordinating, between the scheduling of the clients and your guides, between the invoicing, the payment collection, the waiver collection, and all the follow-ups that go into running this, there's a real cost associated with that, either for you, your time, or your admin's time. And so we need to factor that in. And then there's potentially also marketing and client acquisition costs. So maybe you ran an Instagram ad for this trip, or maybe you booked, these seats at a trade show you attended. And so we add all these in. And so our total variable cost for running this trip, right, is $1,185. If we take our revenue and subtract our total variable costs, that gives us our contribution margin, $915 for this trip, or 44%. That means that on a per seat basis, right, you're making $153 of profit for every person that's on this trip. That's a really healthy number as it is. But as we can see, that those hidden costs here are actually pretty significant. And so what I want to ask now is, right, what if we are able to manage these hidden costs in a more streamlined way, in more efficient way? What would that look like? And so let's move on to the next slide. So as you'll see on this slide, right, this is the same trip that we just walked through. The same 6 clients, $350 a seat, revenue is the same. Even the direct costs are the same. The only thing that's changed is how efficiently we're running this business on that hidden cost side. So what have we done? Right? Well, we've helped reduce our admin time, right, by automating our bookings and payments. We've streamlined client communication. We've improved our marketing. So admin time drops from almost $200 right down to about $50. That single change, as we see here, actually takes that contribution margin from a little over $900 to over $1,000, or 44% for this trip to 51%. And where I think this is really important and where it gets interesting is that that's a $145 improvement for this trip. But that improvement doesn't just happen once, right? Like, it happens for every time you run this trip. And so if you're running this SPI course 50 times a season, right, you've just added over $7,000 of additional profit with the same revenue, the same clients. You haven't even touched pricing yet. You just have better systems and more efficient systems. And that $7,000 is in your pocket, in your bottom line. And so when we talk about the operational leverage here from a system standpoint, this is what we mean. The guides and the outfitters who are investing in the right infrastructure, right? They don't just save time, but they can materially improve the economics of their business, as this example shows.
But Grant, hold on. I'm never going to have $0 in admin time. So, what if it's still $50? Will I still be better off?
Absolutely. I mean, if we go back to our last slide and we're assuming, admin time takes 3 hours, it's now, with better system, it still takes you 30 minutes, right? That's still a significant time savings that one, you can either save that savings, or you can then reallocate that time to something that is going to drive business for you. Maybe you spend that on marketing, or maybe you spend that on following up with your best clients, rather than something like tracking down invoices or waivers.
Love it.
Sweet. Okay, so once we have our contribution margin at the trip level, and we have a good understanding of our trip economics, we can then plot each of our trips into one of 4 categories. And so we have, your high revenue, high margin trips. We have our low revenue, low margin trips, and then we have some combination of the two. But this top right quadrant, these are your high margin, high revenue trips. These are your core trips. These are the trips that you want to scale, you want to fill, you want to grow, you want to build marketing around them. And then for your other trips, I think it's worth investigating. Maybe some of these in yellow are really important because they act as a funnel or a pipeline into that top right quadrant. But maybe even still, there's some restructuring that could turn those also into a green style trip. And then for the red trips, I think it's worth looking into why are you running them in the first place? Are they needed if they are truly low margin and low revenue? I think this is just an important and helpful exercise so you can start to understand which trip falls into which category for you.
Grant, if I'm an outfitter owner watching this right now, and I realize that I have a low revenue, low margin trip, and the reason I have a low revenue, low margin trip is because my belief is those customers are going to eventually be in the upper right hand quadrant. What should I be looking at my low revenue, low margin trip in order to get it at least to a low revenue, high margin, or a high revenue, low margin?
Yeah, well, one of the first things we would look at is price. And I think that's a great segue into our next slide here. And so when we think about what drives profitability of a trip, there are really 3 main things. We've already touched on cost control and managing those costs, Of course, there's also utilization of getting more people to book. But I think one of the most important levers here that is generally underutilized in the mountain guide space is price. And one of the reasons why I really like price as a lever is it's almost entirely margin for you, the outfitter, There's no incremental cost that you incur when you increase your seat price by $20, Every dollar will flow directly into the bottom line. However, why aren't more guides increasing their prices, And I think this is an important piece as well. Ben and I, hear this a lot from mountain guides. There's some hesitancy around increasing price, and for good reason. But let's chat through them. And so, one of the first things that we hear has to do with uncertainty around cost structure, So again, if you don't know how much it costs every time you run a trip, then it's hard to be confident that you're priced correctly. And so I think that's one of the most important things. And hopefully what we've walked through in the last few slides will give you some tools to start mapping that out. I think a second piece, is competitive anchoring. So a lot of guides will set prices based off of what competitors are charging and matching it. Totally understandable. However, I think the problem there is your competitors may also be underpricing as well. And you're then anchoring to a benchmark that is not tied to the actual value that you're delivering for your clients. And so I think a better question to ask is actually, how much are my customers willing to pay for this experience, right? With my guiding expertise in this location where we offer, and starting from there. And then I think third is, right, a fear of losing the booking, right? So if I charge $50 more for a seat on this trip, right, someone might not book. And yeah, that is possible. But I think this is where it's important to understand the math of this, because a booking at a bad margin may actually be worse than not getting that booking in the first place. And that can sometimes be a tricky thing to think through. But I want to spend a little bit of time on it, on this third point. And so that's what the next slide will jump to.
And we see this a lot, Grant, right? With new entrants into the market, potentially trying to put their price at the floor. But that sets them at a tough bar to build a profitable business, to your point. And one final point I'll make is we always see our customers adjusting their price, and when we ask them why, it's because their competitor increased their price. So everybody's waiting for each other to go up in price.
That's right. Okay, so I think this is actually one of the most important slides in the deck. So I want to sit here for a minute and just talk through it carefully. And what we're going to show is a scenario where we increase price and actually lose some trip volume because of it, and the impact that may have on your bottom line. And so on the left-hand side of the screen, we have a baseline scenario. Okay, we have $299 per seat. We run 50 trips a year. On average, we fill 5 seats per trip. Right, you can see our revenue, $74,000. After costs, our gross profit, $28,500, right? Okay, now what if we were to increase the cost per seat by 10%? So now all of a sudden, right, our price per seat is $329. And let's assume that volume declines by 4%, or actually by 5%. Right, we actually will run fewer trips than we did in the baseline scenario. I think that's a potentially a reasonable assumption. But what happens when we do that? As you can see, right, revenue per trip actually goes up, and importantly, right, our costs go down because we're actually running fewer trips. So there's less permit expenses, there's less guide expenses, and your total profit now has gone up to $34,500. So it's essentially just added $6,000 more in profit from a $30 increase to the price of your seats, and you're running 2 fewer trips now. And so I think the reason why guides often resist making a change like this is because the volume decline is visible, and that is potentially a real consequence. However, it's important to understand that you actually may be making more money with a price increase than by just running additional bookings at a lower price. And so look, like this is something that you should run a calculation for your own based on your business. We can certainly help walk through that as well. But it's an important decision framework to understand as you're thinking about potentially the levers that you have at your disposal for growing your business. But I'm going to turn it back to Ben now, who's going to take us to the next slide.
Thanks, Grant. One last point on this is a lot of our customers and just a lot of outfitters in general don't run only one trip in their business. And so we can help you look at this across all of your trips in your business, because not all trips are created equal. They all have different cost structures. And so this is what will allow you to understand where you can grow profitably, which we'll talk about in the third point. But obviously we can increase price, and that'll drive meaningful margin, even with a reduction in demand. But we also talked about another variable, which is time, admin time. And a lot of the companies that we see, and a lot of you probably spend an unnecessary amount of time booking and scheduling trips. And imagine a world where a trip is booked and there's no time spent from an administrative standpoint. Your guides are assigned, your payment is collected, your emails are going out, your guides know where to meet your customer, and there's no work to be done. And shameless plug here, but that's what we do here at Origin. We help guide businesses really operate more efficiently, save time so that they can run more profitable trips. And here's just a couple examples of how we do that. Not only do we consolidate the booking data and the scheduling information and the payment information, but our system knows when you are available so that your customers can know when they can book you. And it's all driven by your guide availability, so that you don't have to play Tetris with Excel spreadsheets and use multiple systems to run your business. We have built an all-in-one platform that does allow our customers to book trips with zero administration time. But it gives all of our administrators the ability to see into their business in one spot. When we think about the question that we asked at the top, like, where are your bookings coming from? This is a really important metric. Most companies can't answer this question because either they don't have the mechanism to understand it, but really the reason is they haven't connected their booking data or their booking system with their advertising system. The customers that use Origin can now see a full view of where their business is coming from so that they understand their cost structure better. If they spend more money in Meta or in Google, what does that do to their cost structure? Not all bookings have the same cost structure, and they don't have all the same margin profile. I can book an SPI course direct, or I can book an SPI course from an ad. The outfitter will end up making less, potentially, profit from the one that comes from an ad. But if your cost structure, if you understand your cost structure and you have a strong margin profile, it may make sense for you to put more money in Meta or in Google. Where it wouldn't make sense for you to put more money into Meta or into Google is if you don't have a strong sense of how much money you're making on a per trip basis. And so here we're able to help you not only understand that, but also understand where your business is coming from. Now back to my just most recent point. If you do end up putting money into Meta or Google, you should understand your return on your ad spend, because that will have a direct impact in your profitability. And within your Origin dashboard, you're able to see that. You're able to see it on a campaign level. You're able to see it and filter on a time-based level. And our customers are spending their money in advertising with all of this in mind. And so we're trying to help them recognize that they shouldn't just spend money on any trip. They should really be focused on the trips that have a high margin profile so that they can continue to grow profitably. So our hope is that you took something away from this, and there's some small things that everybody can do to build a more profitable business this week, this month, and this year. Pull your top 3 to 5 trips and run through your cost structure. Make sure that you are running a profitable trip. If you're not, it's time to increase your price or look at your costs and see where you can reduce your costs. And also, we can help. We would love to help. And so you can reach out to us on exploreorigin.com. We can run you through an analysis of your trips one-to-one. We can walk through a pricing analysis with a variety of different options. I think I certainly am surprised still to this day how much less demand you could forego with such a small price increase and still come out running a way more profitable business. My view is that demand will likely not go down because the people that are booking with you are booking with you for a reason. I don't believe that you run a commoditized business. I actually believe that everybody is unique and people are booking with you because of who you are and the services that you offer and the places that you have access to. And for that reason, you're worth every penny. And so when you start to really look at how you can adjust that price to run a more profitable business, you can make more money. So Grant, do you have anything else to add?
No, I don't have anything else to add. Appreciate you listening to us. And as Ben said, we're here to help. If you do have questions, if you want to run through an analysis one-on-one, let us know. We're more than happy to jump on and chat this live with you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll speak to you soon.